It starts quietly. No one notices at first. 18 months have passed, you're sitting in front of the same charts you've been staring at for hundreds of hours, and you realize something terrible. You've become exactly what you swore you'd never be. A trader who works harder than everyone else but makes less than everyone claims. You're working more. You're analyzing deeper. You're journaling religiously. And yet here you are, still struggling, still stuck, still wondering when that breakthrough moment finally comes. This is how a trader disappears. Not from the charts, but from themselves. You've forgotten why you set out on this journey. 2 years ago, you didn't know who you were as a trader, so you became everything. The student, the analyst, the hard worker, the disciplined one who never missed a day, and the world praised you for it. Look how dedicated you are. Look how committed. You're going to make it. But no one ever stopped to ask the question that matters. At what cost? Because somewhere in those 2 years, you stopped evolving and started surviving. You built an identity that kept you going when nothing else worked. And now that identity is a prison you can't escape. This is the invisible grief of those who stayed too long in year one. And if you don't understand what happened, you'll spend year three repeating the same survival patterns that once kept you in the game, but are now keeping you from winning it. So you need to notice this. You need to exit survival mode and remember why you started trading. By the way, do you remember who you were before you started trading? How did trading and the things you experienced along the way shape your character? Let's start with what actually happened. When you began trading, everything felt impossible. You didn't understand price action. You couldn't read a chart. Every loss felt personal. So you did what any intelligent person does. You worked. You studied technical analysis, market structure, risk management, trading psychology. You watched videos, read books, took courses. You became a student. And that identity saved you. Because being a student gave you purpose when profit didn't. It gave you progress when your account showed none. You could lose money but still feel like you were moving forward because you were learning. This was survival. This was smart. So you continued gathering knowledge. Even though you couldn't gain profit, you managed to feel productive because you were gathering knowledge. But here's what nobody tells you about that student identity. It has an expiration date, and that date was supposed to be around month 12. By then, you were supposed to have learned enough. You were supposed to stop studying and start executing. You were supposed to graduate from student to trader. But most people don't, because graduating is terrifying. Because as long as you're a student, you have an excuse. You're still learning. You don't have to be profitable yet. You're building your foundation, and that feels safe. But if you stop being a student and become a trader, if you actually execute your edge with the knowledge you have and you still fail, then what? Then you can't blame lack of knowledge. You can't blame incomplete education. You have to face the possibility that maybe you're just not cut out for this. So you stay a student, forever learning, never earning. You always assume that learning something will solve your problems, and this keeps you away from solving the actual problem. That's why you might not be able to become profitable even though years have passed. This is the identity trap. And it doesn't look like failure. It looks like dedication. You're the trader who studies every morning, who watches charts 10 hours a day, who has 14 criteria for every trade, who journals every setup, who never takes days off because rest feels like weakness. Everyone thinks you're doing everything right, and you think you're doing everything right. But deep down, something hurts. Something aches. Because 2 years in, you're not where you thought you'd be, and you can't figure out why. The answer is brutal. You're stuck because who you became in year one cannot get you to year three. That's not a failure of effort. That's a failure of evolution. What saved you then is imprisoning you now. So you need to change. You can't think like the same person. You shouldn't act like them. Now you need to transition to a new phase in this journey you started with a learning identity. You must change your identity. Let me show you what this looks like in real trading. Victoria has been trading Forex for 26 months. Every single day, she studies for 3 hours before the markets open. She reviews courses, reads trading books, watches analysis videos. Then she opens her charts. She has a system, 14 criteria: moving averages, RSI, MACD, volume, support and resistance, trend analysis, candlestick patterns, Fibonacci levels, previous day high and low, session analysis, correlation checks, news calendar, volatility filter, and risk-reward calculation. All 14 have to align. If 13 are there but one is missing, she doesn't trade. She waits. She watches. She analyzes. Her screen time averages 9 hours daily. Her trade count averages 4 per week. Her account performance after 26 months? Break even. Not blown up, not profitable. Just stuck. But if you ask Victoria if she's disciplined, she'll say, absolutely. If you ask if she works hard, she'll say harder than anyone she knows. If you ask if she's committed, she'll show you her trading journal, 2 years of daily entries, detailed analysis, lessons learned, improvements planned, everything a professional trader should do. So why isn't she profitable? Because Victoria isn't trading. She's performing the identity of a trader. She's being the hardworking student, the disciplined analyst, the committed learner. And that identity is killing her account. Not through losses, through paralysis. She's so disciplined at being a student that she forgot how to be a trader. This is a big mistake we make without realizing it. But we can easily correct this mistake and get closer to being profitable with a new identity. Here's what actually happens when you get stuck in the student identity. You become hypervigilant. Just like a child forced to read their parents' mood to stay safe, you read the market's every tick to feel in control. You walk on eggshells around your trades. You learn that execution is dangerous and analysis is safe. You learn that your need to trade is reckless and the market's permission is what matters. So you wait. You study. You prepare. And in your place grows a version of you that performs well at being a trader without ever actually trading. You become the good student, the thorough analyst, the one who never takes a bad trade because you barely take any trades. And you wear that identity so convincingly that even you forget it's a mask. But deep down, that inner trader you buried didn't die. They're still in there screaming silently, "When do I finally get to trade?" The identities got mixed up. You forgot why you started this work. The learning identity was important and gave you many things. But now it's become the reason you can't get where you need to go. You must leave it behind and continue your journey as a trader. As you stay stuck longer, the symptoms become more complex. You might become hyper-independent in your trading. You refuse help, dismiss advice, convinced that more personal study is the answer. You might feel numb during winning trades because profit feels unfamiliar, unearned, like it'll be taken back soon. You might struggle to take days off because productivity is the only way you've ever felt like a real trader. And worst of all, you might not even realize you're still stuck in survival mode. Because when student identity is normalized for 2 years, your nervous system accepts studying as baseline. Executing feels wrong. Simplifying feels suspicious. Trading with 5 criteria instead of 14 feels like you're not trying hard enough. Simplifying things feels wrong to you. You prefer to make them complex and feel like you're working harder. Yet what matters is whether you're profitable or not how productive it makes you feel. You started this work to make money and be more free. You didn't have plans to become screen addicted and obsessed with analysis. But this industry made you this way, and this state it put you in makes you dependent on it and prevents you from being profitable. Remember why you started. This is the psychology of a trader stuck in year 1 while living in year 2. It's not just frustration, it's a complex identity prison that reshapes how you view trading, and more importantly, yourself. Now you might ask, why would anyone willingly stay in that prison? Because traders will do anything to avoid the terror of truly executing. That's why increasing the number of criteria makes so much sense. They even abandon the very thing they came here to do. The choice is never conscious, it's protective. In the absence of certainty, the trader sacrifices execution for preparation. That's not weakness, that's intelligence. That's fear dressed as professionalism. But the tragedy is this. What kept you safe in month 6 is keeping you stuck in month 26, making you stay in place, keeping you from being profitable because you're watching many trades you should take instead of evaluating them due to overanalysis. Yet you should take action and face the consequences. You don't need more. You need simplicity. If you want to be profitable, that is. If the most important thing isn't being profitable but feeling productive, then keep going. You're on the right track. So many traders are walking around as high-functioning students with deeply neglected trader identities pulling the strings. We study to feel worthy. We analyze to avoid risk. We add criteria to delay decisions. And secretly, we wish someone would just give us permission. Permission to stop studying. Permission to simplify. Permission to execute imperfectly and see what happens. That fantasy, that someone will finally tell you you've learned enough, You're ready now. Go trade. That is the unmet need, not of your current self, but of the trader who's been waiting 2 years to finally emerge. The real change begins with not getting so stuck in the learning and analysis phase and asking the question, how can I operate a simple system with the highest percentage correctly? You don't need analysis, you need action. You've spent enough time to have the right system. Your system doesn't have to be perfect. It can still give you the freedom you dream of if you execute it correctly. But you can choose to postpone and prefer not to take trades to make it the best it can be. You can stay in the learning process, get satisfaction from there, and postpone the transition to profitable trader identity. But this has no end. This is exactly what you need to understand. So now you must transition to the profitable trader identity. The first step to breaking free isn't more discipline, it's witnessing. Because until you see what's actually keeping you stuck, you'll keep gaslighting yourself with thoughts like, I just need one more course. I just need to master this one concept. I just need to be more prepared. But prepared is a mask too. And deep down, you know it. So what happens to that trader when they never evolve? They become adults in trading years who never feel safe even after perfect setups. They become analysts who can't trust their own edge. They become students who can't graduate. They become the kind of traders who apologize for taking trades, second-guess every entry, and confuse screen time with progress. They become slaves to the place they came to be free. Their lives are in worse condition than before. Their psychology is worn down and weakened. The markets see these people as easy fish and easily take the money from their pockets. This is the cost of staying in student identity too long. Because if your first year trained you to be thorough at the expense of being decisive, to be analytical instead of active, to study others while ignoring your own readiness, then what kind of trading career do you inherit? You inherit a life where you're holding your breath waiting for the market to give you permission to finally execute. But here's the truth. No one's coming to tell you you're ready. You are the one who must give yourself that permission. You are the one who must say what no one else will say. You've learned enough. You're ready now. You can trade. Your system can be imperfect. Your win rate can be 52%. You have a quite sufficient system. Start executing it and focus on how you can execute it most correctly. For example, how many hours of screen time makes you make fewer mistakes? Ask yourself these kinds of questions. Transform into your version that can execute your system with maximum efficiency and become a profitable trader. Change your identity and let everything change. Let me tell you what happened when Victoria finally saw the trap. She was journaling after another break-even week. 23 setups watched, 2 taken. Both small winners that barely covered commissions. And she wrote the question that changed everything. When do I get to stop being a student and start being a trader? She stared at that question, and the answer hit her like cold water. Never. Because being a student is safe. Being a trader is vulnerable. As long as she stays a student, she can tell herself she hasn't really tried yet. She's still preparing, still learning, still building her foundation. But if she actually executes, actually trades her edge with what she already knows, and fails, then the student excuse dies. Then she has to face that maybe trading isn't for her, and she keeps staying in place because of this fear, because she has a nice excuse for failure there. That realization broke something in her, not in a bad way, in a necessary way. She saw clearly for the first time that her 14 criteria weren't professionalism. They were protection. Her 9-hour screen time wasn't dedication, it was avoidance. Her 3 hours of daily study wasn't growth. It was a ritual to feel like a trader without the risk of actually being one. She was performing trading, not doing it. And that performance was exhausting. So she made a decision that terrified her. Victoria would stop being a student, and Victoria would start being a trader. She deleted 9 of her 14 criteria, kept 5. She stopped studying every morning. She reduced screen time to 2 hours. She set a rule. If all 5 criteria align, take the trade. No additional analysis. No waiting for more confirmation. Just execute. Accept the outcome, whatever it is. She exited passive student mode and decided to become a trader. The first week felt like falling. Every trade felt reckless. Every decision felt premature. She kept reaching for the deleted criteria like phantom limbs. What about the correlation check? What about the volatility filter? But she held the boundary, 5 criteria. That's it. If they align, trade. If they don't, wait. Nothing else matters. Second week, still uncomfortable, but something shifted. She was actually trading. 4 setups, 4 executions, 2 wins, 2 losses. Net positive. More profit in 1 week than the previous month. Third week, the discomfort faded slightly. She started trusting the 5 criteria. Started trusting herself. By end of month 1, her account was up 8%. Month 2, up another 11%. Not because the strategy changed, because the identity changed. She stopped being the student who needed permission, started being the trader who gave it to herself. She took responsibility. She faced the fear of failure, and she started taking trades with a different identity. Here's what most don't understand about identity evolution in trading. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about shedding who you became to survive and returning to who you need to be to thrive. The hardworking student served you in month 3 when you knew nothing, but you're not in month 3 anymore. You're in month 26, and that student identity is now a cage. Your work ethic isn't the problem. The problem is you're working hard at studying when you should be working hard at executing. You're disciplined at analysis when you should be disciplined at trading. The effort is there, it's just aimed at survival instead of success. Who is the version of you that can execute your trading system most correctly, and how would that version do it? You should think about this. Not new trading criteria. This is where shadow work enters trading, not the Instagram version with affirmations and vision boards. Real shadow work. Turning toward the parts of yourself you've been avoiding and asking why. Why do I need 14 criteria when 5 would work? Because more feels safer. Why do I study 3 hours daily when I already know enough? Because studying feels productive without being vulnerable. Why do I watch charts 9 hours but trade 4 setups? Because watching feels like working without risking failure. These answers are uncomfortable because they reveal that your trading struggle isn't about the market. It's about you, about the identity you built that no longer serves you. And letting go of that identity feels like death. Because in a way, it is the death of the student, the birth of the trader. Allow the birth. This is why you haven't been profitable for so long. Now leave your old identity behind and become a real trader. Execute your system and do your job. Carl Jung said there is no coming to consciousness without pain. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And in trading, we do absurd things. We add our 15th indicator. We take our 7th course on the same concept. We journal about lessons we've already learned 20 times. Anything to avoid the real question. Am I ready to stop preparing and start trading? Because that question demands we face our deepest fear. What if I'm ready and I still fail? What if the problem isn't knowledge or discipline or effort? What if it's just me? But here's what that fear is really protecting. It's protecting the hope. As long as you're a student, you can still believe that one day when you've learned enough, you'll be profitable. That hope is precious. It's what got you through 2 years of struggle. But that hope is also a prison, because you'll never feel like you've learned enough. There will always be one more thing to master, one more concept to understand, one more course to take. The student identity has no finish line. It's designed that way, to keep you safe from the risk of actually being a trader. This is a mechanism you created to protect yourself, and it's keeping you from being a profitable trader, keeping you away from your dreams to keep you safe. Notice this and start the change. Here's the permission you've been waiting for. You've learned enough. You know enough. You're ready enough. The breakthrough you're waiting for won't come from more knowledge. It'll come from executing what you already know, from simplifying what you've overcomplicated, from trading instead of studying, from being instead of becoming. Your 3rd year doesn't need to look like year 1. Your 3rd year needs to look like evolution. And evolution requires the old self to die. The student must graduate. The analyst must execute. The hard worker must trust that enough is enough. If trading still feels hard after 2 years, it's not because you're not good enough. It's because you're still being who you were instead of who you need to become. Your discipline was never the problem. You're just disciplined at being a student when the market needs you to be a trader. And that shift, that identity evolution, it won't happen by working harder. It'll happen by working different. By giving yourself permission to stop proving you're dedicated and start proving you can execute. Not perfectly, not with certainty, but simply, decisively. Like a trader, you never had the breakthrough, but you still have tomorrow. And this time, you don't need to be the student anymore. You can be the trader, the one who finally steps out of year 1 and into year 3. Not through more effort, through evolution. That's not quitting. That's growing up. And maybe for the first time, you're finally becoming who you came here to be. A real trader. Being profitable with this new identity is easier than you think. Stop being a student, become a trader.